each other every single year. But now you have to decide, how are you going to do the conference title game? And this is something that I know a lot of Michigan and Ohio State fans do not want a part of. They don't want the potential that they play each other 2 weeks in a row. Michigan and Ohio State play, and maybe the outcome of that game ends up not mattering
Hmm.
because they end up seeing each other in the conference title game. And that probably is unideal. I have a solution to that, but I want to hear your thoughts on the potential of not realignment, but just doing away with divisions.
So the basically the way that this would structure is that it would look exactly like how the Big 12 operates right now, where the Big 12 has, I believe it's 11 teams. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I might be off by one, but they don't have
I think
divisions
it's
either.
10.
And they have the top two teams in the rankings themselves of the conference rankings. And then they have the top two teams play in the Big 12 title game. And to be fair, it's actually been pretty competitive, including this past year where Oklahoma State, they ridiculously couldn't score on like the 1 yard line against Baylor and lost their chance at a college football playoff, opening the door for Michigan to be able to get. And those sorts of games could happen across all of the conferences, across the Pac-12, across the Big Ten, SEC, all of that. And the one thing I would say to anybody who is afraid, Michigan and Ohio State specifically, those fans, I just really think it's a statistical unlikelihood that you're going to have the situation you're presenting that often, because you are going to have another team that is going to be that sort of anomaly. It could just be a team that has an easy schedule and just plays like a Maryland, Indiana, and Purdue all in the same year, like an Iowa this year who just had a chump schedule. Or it could be another team that's just legitimately very good, like a Penn State or a Wisconsin, or even if Nebraska decides to get their act together like we think they will this year. And so anybody who is wanting to use anecdotal situations as a reason to not do this, I think are mistaken, because I'll be honest, I don't know how you feel. It's not because I don't think that we're capable. We've done it before, but I just don't want to have to see Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State every single year, and on the off years have to play two of them on the road and know that is coming around the corner every 2 years. It would be much better to be able to change the schedule up and be able to play teams like Wisconsin, who I've been begging to play again, much more often.
So I think this can be a good thing, provided that it is done. The thing that you touched on with the unbalanced schedules is something that I assume, if the Big Ten is going to get rid of divisions, they're going to do that to address this. Because you are not forced to play all the teams within your division anymore, you should theoretically, if they are not completely incompetent, be able to have relatively balanced schedules. Now, the ideal thing, we've talked about realignment a lot, and outside of realignment, the ideal thing is pod scheduling. And you would split the teams up into pods, especially if the Big Ten were to add 2 teams to get to 16, but you don't even have to do that. You have your 3 protected rivalries that you play year in and year out. And then with pod scheduling, you would play every single team in the Big Ten every 2 years. You would end up playing every single team, and that's balanced and it's great. And through pod scheduling, and they've done the data. If you take like the S&P rankings, S&P plus, whatever you like, and you go back the last 10 years, if you had a pod scheduling system, the schedules come out almost perfectly balanced across the board. Now, of course, your dominant teams are going to have a less balanced schedule because they don't have to play themselves. So if Ohio State's dominating the conference, they don't play themselves. Their schedule's going to be a little bit easier on paper, but for the most part, this was quite balanced. Outside of that, if we're not going that direction, which for whatever reason, we have not gone that direction and haven't adopted it, this is your next best chance to truly balance schedules. And another thing it gives you over divisions is it doesn't hurt you on the whims of if a team gets good for a stretch that you didn't expect to. So Michigan State, outside of the last few years, not including last year where they were good, but the few years before that, they're bad for a long time. Michigan State was really good. Michigan State had a decade of excellence. Combined with, you expect Michigan to be good. Ohio State's good every single year. Penn State is good most years. Those teams in the same division, it's a bloodbath. It really is. It's hard to get out of that division. If you don't have to play each other every single year and you can actually have balance, Michigan State can play Wisconsin. Ohio State can play Wisconsin. They never play Wisconsin, it feels. And you can have what are currently crossovers. Right now, Michigan is set up to play Nebraska for the next 6 years. We just finished 6 years of playing Wisconsin every single year. That's our West, one of our West crossovers. Why? That's not balance. We're not playing Purdue. We don't get to play Purdue. Like, why? For what reason?
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what?